Oh, we hardly ever escaped out of the studios, and it wasn't boring, but we needed to escape occasionally, and you may know at that time, Michael Grade, who was the producer of Doctor Who, didn't like it and wanted to drop it with Jonathan Powell, and the show nearly finished, and the rows were going on with various people, and so that was an added burden on us when we were doing it, because the atmosphere was slightly terrible towards the end. Some of the scripts weren't quite as good towards the end either. But we did manage to escape to Canvas Sands, which is a place a bit like, you know, the beach in Chicago, where Colin Baker had to be submerged, and I had to go around going, or something like that, most of the time.
You jumped around. They had you edited around, standing in various different places around, and it looked actually not too bad weather-wise, which is a rarity for a Doctor Who location. Or was it colder than it looked like on screen?
Was it cold?
Yeah, it was colder there because it looked sunny and on a beach, and I think this is not Doctor Who.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
it's cold. But yeah, was it difficult working in the cold weather then? Or?
Well, I don't know. It doesn't matter what kind of conditions you've got to carry on doing it, I suppose.
Was it like working with Linda Bellingham then as the Inquisitor, as you're sort of she played sort of the judge in the trial sequences? What was it like working with her?
Well, Linda, yeah. Oh, she's great. I mean, she's not very well at the moment. She's got I think she's got cancer, but she's bravely carrying on, and hopefully she'll get over it. But she's a shall we say, a ballsy lady. She doesn't suffer fools, and she's a good actress.
Was there good rapport between you two? Because she was sort of the, you know, she would smack you down sometimes as being the judge, and you know, did she sort of carry that over into the backstage sort of thing, sort of being the
one ruling very difficult when you're playing that kind of part, because acting is about conflict, but it got a bit boring when we had to keep telling everybody to shut up most of the time.
It's not like it's basically like a courtroom drama, I suppose, when you sort of look at some of the scenes, the better written scenes, shall we say.
Well, courtroom drama is that's why it's so. That's why there's so many things on television about courtrooms or hospitals, because it's about the human condition.
There's a lot of great interplay, I find, between you and Colin Baker in those scenes, and did that. A lot of intensity and everything, and it doesn't necessarily come out of the script. Does that part come out of rehearsals, or is that the director sort of driving you towards getting the intensity up in some of those scenes?
Well, it came out of rehearsals, really, and there are certain moments of tension which you've got to play all the time. I mean, there's a difference between that and shouting at parts.
You didn't shout that much in those things. You did raise your voice a little bit, and that's what made, like, do you sort of, when approaching a part like that, you sort of try and scale it back a little bit so that when you are going to be more villainous, I suppose, that you have somewhere to go? Like, how do you sort of pitch a performance like that as the villain, who's also the villain in a hidden sort of sense as well?
Yeah, it's very funny now you're talking about it, but at the time I was just playing the part as I believed it to be played, and I met some real villains in London, and generally they're very softly spoken. I don't know whether any of you have heard of the Craigs. They were sort of, well, I compared to American gangsters. They were like a very minor mob. But I was in a pub once where one of them was talking to another one, and he said, "If you don't be a good boy," and he went down his face, and I could actually think I could see the slash marks of the razor going down his face. Didn't raise his voice, but it was very chilling.
I mean, have you made sort of a career out of playing villainous parts, and you sort of look at people like the Craigs as inspiration?
Not particularly, but I mean, as you know, in America, years ago, there were quite a few films made about Rome, and all the baddies were played by British actors, and all the goodies were played by Americans for some unknown reason. They seem to think there's some sort of sinister quality that the British have got. I don't think they have. And I don't think they're any more subtle. If you take something like, well, Al Pacino is one of my idols. I think he's a great actor. Sometimes he shouts, but it grabs you by surprise, because you've been playing something and suddenly shouts.
What do you think of the costume that you had to wear with the hats and the big giant robes that you always had on?
Oh, I hated that hat because in most of the scenes at the beginning it kept going like that, so they had to stick it down with very hard glue, and it took a long time to get the bloody thing off.
And you never got to take it off until, like, I think the very last episode you had it off briefly, I think as it was.
Sorry?
I don't think you ever got to take the hat off, apart from the very last episode.
Oh, I took it off right at the end.
Yeah.
When I was on campus.
So you actually were in the incarnation of the Doctor. So you were actually going to play the Doctor in those last couple of episodes.
How did you feel when you opened up the page of the last episode and found out that you were actually the Doctor?
Well, we didn't actually know whether that was going to be the last one or whether that might be another one that was going to replace it, you see what I mean? So it was a very tricky situation altogether. So that Doctor Who survived.
All the Doctor Who fans in England know I'm one of the bloody doctors as well.
Sorry. I told everybody there are going to be 4 doctors there. And they're like, no, only 3. I'm like, 4? If you don't say the Valeyard is a doctor, we can't be friends.
Well, what puzzled me about the last episode was John Hurt, who I used to know very, very well indeed. Suddenly turns up as the evil side of one of the Doctors. So when it comes to the 12th generation, there'll be 14 of us altogether. Doesn't make much sense.
I just wanted to say that you are one of my favorite villains.
Oh yeah, just a minute. Let me have a guess who you addressed. Charlie Chaplin. Humphrey Bogart. That's very, very good.
Thank you.
Who made that? Was that your wife or you?
No, actually, it was a very close friend, so she was able to put it together.
That's fantastic.
This is what I wanted to do.
And that's a great honour, because I've only ever had somebody dress up as me about 3 or 4 times before. I think once in Glasgow. They're all mad there anyway.
You'll notice that the peak of his hat also stays down.
And yours isn't stuck on.
I'm actually running into some of the same problems that you might have. Mine tends to ride up.
That's
so
a
I got
much
to make
better
sure I'm
hat
pulling
than I
it
have,
down
I'll tell you.
every once in a while.
Much better hat than I have. I'm sorry, what's your question?
Oh yeah, well I just wanted to say that, and you were mentioning towards the end of the Doctor Who run that, the scripts were kind of deteriorating and the fan base was kind of waning. But your particular story was, fantastic. I can honestly say you're probably one of the most influential villains in the Doctor Who world, along with the Master. With the last gentleman, you said that you didn't get all the scripts in order, so I got a real quick question, followed by a little bit of a longer one. So, coming into the role as the Valeyard, were you aware of who you were going to be, or was that kind of a big reveal that you weren't even aware of?
No, I didn't know it for the first 2 or 3, because it wasn't, I don't think it was mentioned until about the 4th episode. But actually, when you think of what's happened since about the John Hurt character and the Valeyard, they shouldn't really have written it in the one I was doing.
Right.
I was the evil side of it, because they've got themselves into a lot of nonsense.
And that was actually going to be my next question. They have already mentioned the Valeyard in the classic series, and we're at that point where he should probably be making an appearance, I would hope, very soon. So what do you think may happen with that particular character?
I don't think Moffat would dare do it. I don't think he would do it, because he would get into another can of beans, another can of worms, or whatever, can of beans, can of worms. And it wouldn't, you probably know I worked with Moffat on a thing called Breast Camp years and years ago. It was a kids' series. Oh, some of you have seen it. And I knew he was going places. I haven't seen him since. I knew he was got talent. But I think on the level of what you're saying, Valeyard can't ever come back, because where would you place him? Is the master going to come back? I've done last year I did a trial at the Valeyard for audio books, which I don't think has come over the stage yet, and I did one of the episodes actually as a book where I was doing all the voices, including Sabalon clips, and Bonnie Langford was a bit difficult to do, and so was Nicola Bryant, because her voice is much lower than mine.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, and that's a great pleasure.
Thank you.